Section 1. Deal of the Century. More like Tweet of the Century. Friends, gather round for we're about to dive into the wild world of international diplomacy, Trump style. Our story begins, as many do these days, with a truly baffling statement. Picture this. February 2025, Trump's back, and he's sharing the stage with his old pal Netanyahu. Suddenly he drops this bombshell. I am determined to buy and take control of Gaza. Now you might be thinking, John, did he just say what I think he said? Yes, dear viewer, you heard correctly. The man who once slapped his name on everything from steaks to casinos, now has his sights set on a slightly more complicated piece of property, the Gaza Strip. It seems our former president, with his keen eye for a deal, thinks he can just waltz in and add this little slice of the Middle East to his portfolio. But as with most things Trump, the reality is far more complicated and, dare I say, hilarious than his initial tweet suggests. Section 2. Gaza, not your average fixer-upper. You see, Gaza isn't your average fixer-upper. It's not some crumbling pre-war brownstone that just needs a fresh coat of paint and some gold-plated fixtures. We're talking about a densely populated piece of land home to nearly 2 million Palestinians, with a history as complex as Trump's relationship with the truth. This is a place that's been at the heart of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for decades, riddled with poverty, political instability, and a humanitarian crisis that would make even the most hardened negotiator sweat. But hey, who needs nuanced foreign policy expertise when you've got the art of the deal, right? One can only imagine the late-night brainstorming sessions that led to this brilliant plan. Did someone accidentally spill Diet Coke on a map of the Middle East? Did Trump mistake Gaza for a new golf course development? The world may never know. Section 3. International Eyerolls and a $53 billion reality check. As you can imagine, the international community reacted to Trump's proposal with the kind of weary resignation usually reserved for a toddler's tantrum in a crowded restaurant. Egypt and Jordan, countries that actually share a border with Gaza, politely declined the offer to participate in this geopolitical game of hot potato. The Arab League basically told Trump what everyone else was thinking: this is a terrible idea that will only make things worse. Even more hilariously, Jordan's King Abdullah decided to play a little game of one-upmanship. He announced Jordan would be taking in 2,000 sick children from Gaza. It was like he was saying, oh, you want to solve complex geopolitical issues with simplistic real estate deals? Hold my beer. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Egypt unveiled a slightly more realistic plan to rebuild Gaza, one that involves actual diplomacy and, not forcibly displacing an entire population. The price tag? A cool $53 billion. That's billion with a B, folks. Suddenly, Trump's idea of just throwing some money at the problem doesn't seem so genius anymore, does it? Section 4. So, is this thing even legal? Spoiler alert, probably not. But let's put aside the geopolitical realities and the ethical quandaries for a moment and address the elephant in the room. Is any of this even legal? Can you just buy a territory like it's a timeshare in Florida? Well, international law experts have some bad news for our real estate mogul-turned-aspiring global landlord. It's highly unlikely. Forcing an entire population from their homes, no matter how many gold-plated casinos you promise to build, tends to fall under the category of war crimes. And while Trump's grasp on legality has always been tenuous at best, even he might have a hard time spinning this one. So there you have it, folks. Trump's grand plan to buy Gaza is a perfect storm of ignorance, arrogance, and sheer absurdity. It's a reminder that while reality may be stranger than fiction, it's also a hell of a lot more complicated than a real estate deal.